The National Assembly says it is working on a process to deal with current and former members of Parliament implicated in the state capture report. Parliament's Legal Services Department has formulated a possible plan, giving guidance on how it should take the Zondo Commission's reports forward. For more, I'm joined by Deputy Speaker in the National Assembly, Lechesa Tsenoli. Tate Tsenoli, very good morning. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Walk us through the processes that Parliament is coming up, and certainly in dealing with the state capture report.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, all of us, I guess, us in particular, have identified a few steps already that we need to take. And we had already, our legal section was keeping a watchful eye on developments in the commission process itself. And we're also given the responsibility to distill what is coming out of this reports. One of those reports, the President passed on to us because it dealt with issues relating to members of Parliament, elements of it. But the rest he will submit to us with his action plans at the appropriate time in August, when we are told Justice Zondo will submit the last one. And I guess subsequently they will communicate to us so that we are able to deal with the areas of responsibility of the President over his cabinet and cabinet members and EXCO members, but also we, on the other hand, through our own processes, deal with those issues that relate to us as Parliament and various areas of oversight. Both those actions are predicated on the understanding that we must carefully give the appropriate committees, such as the Ethics Committee, to consider some of the recommendations that are specific and are directly linked to members who currently are serving. But for others who are members and in the executive, some of the things they did were not as members of Parliament. So the only way we will be able to deal with it is through our oversight responsibility, through our committees, on what the prosecution officials are doing about it, and the police and their investigation as required by the commission report. It is going to be through that way that we will be able to deal with some of the cases that relate directly, for example, to ministers who have been mentioned, who these things that the Zondo Commission dealt with happened when they were not members of Parliament. But since they are members of Parliament, as being in the cabinet, it is the oversight over structures that have been instructed to investigate further, but also to seek the actions of the prosecution authority where they find there already exists prima facie case, where this has been indicated, to act swiftly so that we can ourselves then take action from there.
I like the fact that you talk about acting swiftly, Tate Tsenoli. What actions will be taken between now and August, when the President submits the final leg of the report?
Well, one of those things, the Speaker, after receiving a report and with the chairperson, after looking at that report, made reference or referral to the Ethics Committee. There are two members who have been named in this report, and they have been referred to the Ethics Committee to deal with it. And in the meantime, the Research Department of Parliament is looking at the reports that was given to us and others that we are able to have access to that are available publicly, so that we examine for reference in a variety of areas, so that they are dealt with by the appropriate committees, because they are spread across a number of committees. And there are issues that that require, even as we speak now, there are instances where some of the committees, if they come across issues relating to those, would have been dealt with in those committees in the past, and therefore, where appropriate, they would have made some inquiries from the ministers and departments concerned, so that those issues are dealt with in the ordinary work of those committees. But the rest of the report itself requires formal communication to various appropriate committees of Parliament.
Now, the DA Deputy Chief has accused the National Assembly Speaker of stalling in this process. What are your comments? Because certainly from what you're describing, it all seems a rather arduous and prolonged process. And there are cries, certainly across the country, that no people are being brought to book for corruption allegations that are being placed or have been alleged.
Well, part of the reason why just give me a second, sorry, please, just hold on. No, we must be careful not to be pushed too fast over critical issues that require careful management, so that we do not rush over things and then we get a pushback legally that becomes successful because we rushed over procedures and processes that we must be careful about. There are things that can be done immediately. The Speaker has already attended to that. The Deputy Chief Whip of the DA is incorrect of assuming there is stalling. In the first place, those referrals have already been done, those that can be done. But for the rest, we have to await the overall response of the state itself with recommendations about what they are going to be doing. The President said so explicitly, so that we, as we are supposed to do an oversight over the state, we follow through those issues appropriately, as indicated to us both by the Commission itself, which has demanded further investigations and in certain instances criminal charges be considered. So those things need to happen in that way, so we can't rush them for that reason. Not for any other reason, but it is in the nature of things. And we understand the impatience that some things must be done and done urgently. The NTA says they are also careful not to rush before they build a strong enough case so that they don't get pushed back when they get into courts, and that becomes another reason for saying they did a sloppy job, which would be absolutely wrong when the people correctly feel that strong actions must be taken. And for that reason, we must make sure that the case and cases that we deal with, we do it properly. We don't falter any in the steps that are required to ensure the wrong are held accountable, and those who must be arrested are arrested, and those who must be dealt with by the police and the other institutions of governance relating to integrity also take action so that we clean up the system. We must be careful in how we do that, but without wasting time as much as possible.
Now, we understand that the Parliament has a legal services department which has given an opinion, certainly on the analysis of the reports. How is that opinion being handled?
That's the processes that I'm talking about. It is based on that legal advice that we are doing these things this way, so that we separate out those things that can be done immediately from those that has to take a bit of time because of the nature of the contents that's happening. Let me give you an example. If a minister, for example, instances of others who were found guilty of actions when they were MPs but are no longer MPs, it is going to be the processes of investigation that the police were given. We changed the rules of the commission so that the evidence that comes out of there can be used by the investigators to build cases for those who are found to be guilty are dealt with appropriately. So that rule enables the investigators to do that. So Parliament, having done its work by agreeing and supporting the change in the rules of evidence coming out of the Commission for taking action, are important to follow through. Similarly, we expect that we will be able to carry out these things systematically with management by committees once this is finalized. And this is what we want to do.
Dr. Tsenoli, my final question is around investigations that have already been carried out, as evidenced in the State Capture Commission report, and obviously the due diligence that you will need to carry out as Parliament. How do you marry the two, if there is a marrying of the two investigations?
Remember that in instances that affects Parliament directly and what Parliament can do, we have referred to those cases that have been referred to the Ethics Committee. In other words, there is explicit statement there that says these institutions needs to be the following things. And where the investigations, as you say, have been done and so on, we are expecting through our Committee on Justice in its oversight work over the NPA to expect that NPA is an independent institution. So they can also be instructed by the department. But by requesting them to provide reports of what progress they are making with the prosecution of those whose work has already been done largely inside the Commission, that's how it's going to happen. So we are going to be expecting each of our committees to be able to do that. Where it affects each of the committees, that such work must proceed once the final report has been given to us to proceed with it.
Lechesa Tsenoli, Deputy Speaker, National Assembly, speaking to us on the processing of the State Capture Commission report by Parliament. We thank you for your time this morning.